wanted to give you some ideas of letter and number recognition activities that you can do with things that you have at home. This activity is a letter scavenger hunt. All you'll need is a pencil and something to write on. You'll start by picking a letter that your student is struggling with. If they're up to the challenge, you can do multiple letters, but don't do any more than 3 to keep them from getting confused. First, you'll go over what the letter looks like. So for this example, we'll practice with the letter I. You'll talk about the shape of the letter. So for I, it has one short line and a dot at the top. Once your student is familiar with the letter, have them go around the house and find things that contain that letter. I found the letter I on this coffee cup. So now I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to write the letter I. I do the short line and the dot on the top. Now I'll keep going. I found the letter I on a box of cereal in the kitchen. So once again, I'm going to write it down on my paper and then keep looking for it somewhere else. The letter I is on this game. So again, I'm going to write it down on my paper. And you'll continue doing this for as long as it keeps your students' attention. You can also practice letter and number recognition by building them. You can use Play-Doh, paint, you can draw with crayons. I'm going to use yarn because that goes along with how we'll talk about building our letters with long and short lines and curves. So I'll practice the letter Y for yarn. So you'll tell your student the name of the letter, in this case Y, and they'll build it. So they'll put the long line and the short diagonal line and build the letter Y. You can also do this for numbers. Let's make the number 6. So I'll take it and I'll make the number 6. If they get the letter or number wrong, you can have flashcards ready so that you can show them how to make it, or you can demonstrate what it should look like and then allow them the chance to practice. Another way of kind of building the letters or numbers is to use them as a racetrack. So for this, you'll need a large copy of the letters or numbers that your student is struggling with and a toy car. I don't have a toy car, so I'm just going to use this plastic egg. So for this, you'll say A, and your student will trace the letter A with their car. Have your student practicing this a couple times so that they build that motor memory of this is the letter A and this is what it feels like to build the shape of the letter A. And then after they've done it a couple times, you can move on to another letter and do it for as many letters as your student is struggling with. The next few activities can be done with letters or numbers, and they require some flashcards. For flashcards, you can either print some out or buy some, but homemade ones work just as well. For this first activity, you'll pick some letters or numbers that your student is struggling with and lay them out on the floor. You can do it on plates if you want a larger surface, or just the flashcards themselves. The adult will say the number or letter that the student is struggling with. So for example, 2. And the student will have to find that letter or number and stand on it. Then the adult will say another number, for example, 3. And the student will have to find that letter or number and move to it again. You can continue this process until the child gets bored. If you want to add some variation to this activity, instead of placing the cards on the floor, you can place them on the wall and have the child throw a ball or a beanbag at them. This is a game that we've played in class that the kids really seem to like a lot. For this game, along with the flashcards, you'll need a fly swatter. Before beginning, you'll go over the rules. No swatting it back and forth, no hitting people with it, no slamming it really hard against the carpet or table. And then once again, you'll put down those letters or numbers that your student is struggling with, and you'll say one out loud. So the adult will say C, and the child will hit the letter C. And then you'll do it again and say A and hit the letter A. And so on for as long as the child is willing to play. This game is called Hungry Monster. You'll need your flashcards and an empty tissue box. If you can't find an empty tissue box, any other box or even a paper bag will work just fine. If your student wants to take the time to decorate the box and turn it into a monster, then that could be a fun crafting project for them, but it's definitely not necessary if you don't have the time or the materials. So with this game, you'll take your flashcards and the adult will say a letter. So this hungry monster is very hungry for the letter B. So the student will then have to go through the flashcards and find the letter B and feed it to the hungry monster. And now that our hungry monster has had the letter B, they want seconds. And you could stick with the letters, or to make it even more of a challenge, you can have the letters and the numbers together. So maybe now that our hungry monster has had the letter B, they really want the number 3. So your student will have to go through the flashcards and find the number 3 and feed it to the hungry monster. And you can play with this game. You can make it a story if you want to, or you can just say the letters and the numbers. And you can keep going until you run out of cards or until your child is bored with it and wants to move on. This game is only for practicing numbers, and all that you'll need is a deck of cards. Uno cards work really nicely because the numbers are so big, but any cards are fine. You'll want to make sure that you've gone through the cards first so that they're just the numbers and all of the specialty cards aren't included. You'll want to also go ahead and pick out mostly the numbers that your student is struggling with. So you'll have the cards face down and you'll flip over the top card and have the student tell you the number. So this is the number 3. And then you can either choose to do it as a game and go back and forth with the adult and the student, or you can just have the student say each number. 2, 2, 1, and keep going for as long as the child is willing to pay attention.